Yeah, that's right, we're back with another video. And today I thought I'd try something a bit different. I was inspired by a video recently uploaded to the TR7 channel on learning to shove it. And that video breaks it down into little bite-sized pieces. And that's very much the way I like to learn things. Now, I did try the shove it out when I was learning to skateboard way back 4 or 5 years ago. And I got absolutely nowhere. I had no idea what I was doing. I found it way too scary. So I shelved it and decided to work more on my transition-based skateboarding. But that video by TR7's really inspired me to give it another whirl. So I thought it'd be fun today to go through some of their tips in order to see if I could exceed my expectations and get the shove it somewhere in the bag. Now, my goal today is to try and just get a stationary shove it as demonstrated in Harry's video. And I'd heartily recommend going over and checking out the TR7 video to get all of the nitty gritty, all of the tips, and also see all of those expert demonstrations. Now, the first stage in that video is to take a board with no trucks on. I'm sure we all know what a shove it is. I'm going to try and switch the board 180 underneath me as I jump in the air. And I really like the idea of this because I do find it quite scary standing on a stationary board. It's 6'3" with my straight legs that don't bend. There's a good chance I'm going to wash out, and I don't really fancy falling on this hard tarmac. So I'm going to stand on here. In the video it says just to lift the front foot up as you jump and then swish the back leg back straight backwards to see if the board can go around. So I'm going to give this a go, see how it feels. Just place my foot on. My toes are just going over the tail a little bit, as it says in the video. Just gonna jump down. Oh, well, that wouldn't have worked obviously because I was way off the board, but it certainly span round. I think maybe a little bit more knee bend. And I'm just going to experiment with the timing of when I jump up and then when I kick back, and also how much I need to lift this front foot off. So let's go for that. Okay, about 3/4 round, not so good. I want to try and resist the temptation to scissor the legs, because I think that's what I've done in the past, and I don't think that's necessary. I think it's just literally a hop up, clear this front foot, and then try and kick the foot back. Okay, still no success there. That wouldn't have worked on a regular skateboard. Well, that was a little bit better, onto the bolts, but still at a jaunty angle. So for that one, I literally did nothing with my front foot. I just tried to just lift it up out of the way. And I think the more I can flick this foot back, the better. Oh, it was sort of landing on the nose. Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for this now. So what I'm doing is I'm coming down, compressing. I think I can compress a little bit more. And as I come up, I'm just delaying the movement. So I'm not trying to go for it straight away. I'm just trying to relax a little bit with it all. Yeah. It's a little bit harder than I thought. That felt a little bit better. I was doing a little bit more of a sort of ollie motion as I did it that time. So maybe I'll pursue that angle. I think that would work. Foot was a little bit across, but I was on the bolts. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I want to try and get this consistent before I move on to the skateboard with the wheels on. Yeah, for that one, I felt like a bit of a bad bull, just revving up for the charge. So directly scraping back and doing nothing with the front foot seems to work pretty well for the shove it motion. See if I can replicate that. Oh, that felt pretty solid onto the bolts. So for that one, I just sort of delayed. As I came up, I just started going upwards and then went for the little motion. And the more I can bring this front foot out of the way and not try and scissor with it, the better it seems to do. I think with that scissor, puts your front foot next to the back foot, which is not a great landing spot. So if I can just leave that front foot there and just seems to give me somewhere to land again. Yeah, this is starting to feel better and better. Okay, that felt quite good. That time I leant forwards a little bit. I think what's happening is as I lift this front foot up, I'm not bending my knee. So I'm just lifting the front foot up and that's putting me off axis. And I think with the wheels on, that'll be a disaster. So I think if I can just compensate by shifting my body weight, that might work a bit better. Okay, I reckon that deck with no wheels is definitely a good starter. It's given me a good feel of the mechanics of the Shuvit without having to come a cropper. So I'm going to switch over to the board with wheels, and I have to say I'm pretty nervous about this. I've gone for my symmetrical skateboard, which seems like a good option if I'm going to be shoving the board 180. I won't need to keep reworking it back round the right way. And I think the things I'm worried about here is landing back on the board and it's shooting out. So I've put my mountain board gloves on. This tarmac's pretty rough, and the next step in the TR7 video is to try and pop this round and land with the front foot back on the deck. So I'm going to give that a whirl and see how it feels. Oh. So get my feet in the same position. Just see if I can spin it round. Whoa. Yeah, she goes around pretty well, but that is going to be scary to step back onto, I reckon. Okay, well, that's front foot back on. That was way too much. So I think with the wheels on, it seems to rotate even better because obviously there's less friction there. So I need to calm everything down just a little bit. That definitely could work. I was a bit too much on my heels that time, but I think we're getting somewhere with landing with the front foot on. What I'm doing is I'm just calming down all of my action, just trying to not go as hard as I did for the board with no wheels. Okay, so I'm starting to get the board to come round pretty consistently with my front foot landing back on. And I think I need to bend my knees a bit more, but I think the key to landing this one without it washing out is going to be keeping my knees bent as I land. At the moment I'm landing with straight legs and I don't think that's going to work. So I'm going to start trying to commit to a few, try and keep my both feet on. I'm not sure how long this will take, but we'll keep going at it until I can get the stationary Shuvit going. That felt a bit closer to committing. This is definitely harder than the TR7 video made it look. This might take a little bit of practice. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, that's a little intermediate step there. Both sort of toes on and the heels off to act as a rubber stopper to stop me washing out. So I think if I just commit to one of those, we could be in business. Okay, I reckon all the usual tweaks are going to help here. So a bit more bent knees, definitely a bit more bent knees when I land. Try and keep my weight centered and try and commit to putting both feet on the board. I think these will work. It's just really, really scary. It's hard to get across in the video how I'm going to wash out onto this sketchy tarmac. And you may be wondering why I'm not doing it on the St. Just skate park that's behind me. But that's always rammed because it's a jolly nice skate park and really fun. So wouldn't want to try learning a flat ground trick stationary and getting in people's way. So sort of away from it on the basketball court seems to be the right location. Here we go. Oh, that was almost it. I was a little bit off balance, but I did land with both feet back on. And all I did for that one was just slow everything down. Bend the knees a little bit more and then just pop up a little bit slower, try and relax everything down. So I'm not sure I can claim that one. It's the same thing again, toes are on. Sort of a lack of commitment. It's definitely starting to come though. I'm about 15 minutes into the process now, so this is exceeding my wildest expectations. I'm pretty clumsy, pretty tall, so I find this sort of technical, nuanced skateboarding really tricky. I prefer to go flat out and try and stay on. Well, that's sort of technically, I don't think that would work if I was going along, and that is the end goal, to be able to shove it whilst moving. The long-term goal is going to be to shove it onto some sort of obstacle or off an obstacle. This is obviously part one. But that was almost it. Oh my goodness, let's keep going. Yeah, this stage-by-stage approach is really fruitful. I reckon I would have come a cropper and it would have been pretty emotional if I tried these gung-ho rolling from the start. And that's what happened the first time I tried these. I tried them rolling and I just couldn't commit to landing back on the board. And I'm sort of glad that I didn't, because I would have ended up coming a cropper. So I think just trying to get them on the board with no wheels and then onto the board with wheels is building my confidence all the time. I'm also exceeding my expectations because I secretly thought this was not a trick I'd really be able to do, especially stationary. I'm rubbish at stationary stuff. I sort of think it's better to be moving a lot of the time. Okay, one of my big fears was spooning off. I think there's still time, but that one went pretty wrong. And the tail went up, and then I'm just using my foot as a rubber stopper to stop me spinning out. Again, it wasn't perfect, but my feet were on the bolts. I landed. There wasn't wheel bite, so I think I would have rode away from that because it's directly backwards. So pretty stoked. This is progress for sure. I think my next challenge is to build in the consistency. So I'm going to try and get 3 in a row. I think if I can get 3 in a row and really start to get a feel for it, should be able to start taking it into a rolling motion. I want to be super confident. I really don't want to be wheel biting and flying and coming a cropper. Okay, so that's 3 in a row, and that last one felt pretty solid. That's exceeded my wildest expectations, so I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. That's the end of part 1 of learning to shove it. In part 2, I'll be back to try and recap the key points of this shove it, and then try and do it moving. And I think for part 3, once I've had a bit more practice, I'll start trying to take the shove it onto obstacles such as a flat bank or off of a curb. I think the key points for me for getting this stationary shove it with the wheels on were to bend and compress the knees down, be mindful of correcting my body weight forwards a little bit just to allow for that front leg to come up. And then as I pushed up, just to relax and not push up too hard, delay the popping of this back foot. And I found that the more I could do that sort of direct sweep backwards like a bull revving up for the charge, That seemed to be the most potent way to spin the board round. And I found that when I combined that with the front foot coming off and not doing much, that allowed the board to spin. And I found that if I could just keep my knees slightly bent in the air, that gave me a little bit of time to decide whether the board was in the right place to commit to coming back down to land. Didn't need the gloves in the end, luckily, on the tarmac. I didn't want to jinx it while I was attempting. But I think my concern for slipping out on the flat ground was a little bit unfounded. The dodgy ones that I had, my feet just sort of came off the side of the board and I used my feet as rubber stoppers to stop me washing out. Even the ones where I landed on the tail, they might have slipped a little bit and then it came to a halt. So luckily everything was okay. I'm thinking that when I start to go for the pop shove it, which is the more radical version of this, at the moment I'm just doing the standard shove it, I think there's probably more of a chance for the board to flip and to land primo and all that sort of gubbins. But today, luckily, I didn't find the board wanted to flip at all. And I think that was, I just didn't give it a chance. It wasn't going in the air enough. Anyway, enough of my yakking. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to go over and like and subscribe to the TR7 channel. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.